Alabama is entering a new era post Nick Saban. But have there been red flags we've been missing prior to Saban's retirement? I'm going to uncover 3 trends that will highlight how we may be witnessing the end of the Alabama dynasty. Let's double click on that. Nick Saban is widely considered the greatest college football coach of all time, averaging just 1.7 losses in a 17-year run at Alabama. This resulted in going to the national championship 9 times and winning 6 of them. However, there were some concerning trends the last few seasons. From 2001 to 2023, Alabama finished the season with 2 losses. This was the first time this occurred in Saban's time at Alabama. Last season, Alabama was never ranked number 1 in the rankings, the first time this occurred since Saban's first time at Alabama. It was also the first time since his first season that they lost to 2 non-conference opponents in one season. Is the train slowing down for Alabama? Are others catching up? Let's zoom in. The Alabama offense has been slowing down the last 3 years, with this past season being the lowest recorded success rate since Saban's second year in Tuscaloosa. Alabama's standard down rate has dropped the last few seasons, with their standard down success rate also dipping, meaning they are putting themselves in longer down and distances and converting less frequently. And even when they do put themselves in a good position for a down and distance, they aren't capitalizing like we have seen in years previously. The total offensive PPA has dipped considerably last 3 years compared to previous 3 seasons, with passing plays being hit harder than rushing plays. These offensive struggles led Alabama last season to finish out of the top 25 for points per game, yards per game, yards per play, yards per rush, rush yards per game, pass yards per game. Although there have been many great assistant coaches come and go in the Alabama era, Kirby Smart's impact was felt the most. During Kirby Smart's 7-year stint, the Tide won 4 national championships, 3 conference championships, and led the country in opponents' points and yards per game for 2 years. Since Smart's departure, Alabama is 500 in national title games, splitting a pair of games against Kirby's Georgia. Are the ripple effects of Kirby Smart's departure still felt within the program today? It appears so. Alabama had one great defensive season after Smart left, but then we can immediately start to see Alabama's defense give up more predicted points added, surrender more yards on the line of scrimmage, allow offenses a higher success rate, concede more second-level yards, yield more standard downs for opponents, forfeit more PPA per rushing play. Smart's impact on the total defense, specifically the line of scrimmage, was crucial to Alabama's success. This once lethal defense couldn't crack the top 10 this past season for opponent rushing yards per game, opponent rushing yards per rush, opponent passing yards per game, takeaways per game. Last season also marked the worst performance in the Saban era for total PPA surrendered, defensive line yards, standard downs, passing downs explosiveness. Adding to all of this is the fact that Alabama just hired a coach who has yet to field a top 50 defense for total yards and total points allowed per game at a Power 5 school, relying on outscoring opponents versus shutting them down. Alabama has long been considered a powerhouse in recruiting. However, in the last 2 recruiting classes, they've begun to slip on the line of scrimmage, specifically on the defensive side. Since 2011, Alabama has finished in the top 3 10 times for average rating for offensive line recruits. In the last 2 recruiting classes, Alabama sits outside the top 3. However, the bigger concern lies on the defensive side of the ball. Since 2011, Alabama has finished in the top 3 12 times for average rating for defensive line. They have not finished with an average star count of less than 4 since 2012 and haven't had back-to-back seasons at under 4 since 2009 and 2010. Alabama's dominance has largely been established on recruiting and establishing the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And now have hired a coach coming off of a season where his offense finished 102nd in rushing yards per game and defense finished 49th in opponent rushing yards per game. Do you think Alabama's dynasty started to slow down prior to Nick Saban's retirement? And what kind of ripple effects do you think we'll feel once the greatest college football coach of all time is now gone?